Hello, my name is Cahir and I am 444 days alcohol free. I posted this video 444 days ago and I was on my way home from a party. I hadn't slept. I was wearing the same clothes from the night before. Absolutely stank. And I said that I was never going to drink again. And I did say I was never going to drink again like 100 times before. But this time I finally meant it and I haven't drank since. So this video is going to be a little of it's going to be a little bit of a vulnerable one. I've already tried to make this video quite a few times and it keeps bringing me back to like old moments from the past and it's kind of triggering. So I am going to be as open. I'm going to be as open and honest as I can. I am sharing this to maybe help other people on their journey and it might get a little bit triggering. So trigger warning. Not sure what I'm going to speak about, but we're just going to go with the flow, go with it. So this is my journey with alcohol, a very rocky journey, a bit of a roller coaster. I'm going to talk about different experiences that happened to me over the years and how it got me to this point right now where I am 1 year and like 2 or 3 months alcohol free. I'm going to speak about the pros and the cons and the things that I have learned in my own life. And I might have time to answer some of the questions that people ask me over on Instagram, but we're just going to go with it, okay? Okay, let's do it. So, let's get stuck in. Okay, so reflecting on my life and my relationship with alcohol, I feel like I have like three different versions of myself that has three different relationships with alcohol. First version being the darkest version. Whenever I first started drinking, I was really struggling with my mental health. I used alcohol to feel seen, to feel popular, cool, to be validated, to escape how I was feeling. It was the only enjoyment I had in my life was drinking, and it was a dark time. It caused a lot of negative implications in my life. I got myself into some really horrible, horrible situations. I made a lot of mistakes. I had things done to me that were traumatic because of the situations that I got myself in. And I also done things myself which were completely against my values and morals today. But I was such a young child. Like, I was so vulnerable, so young, so impressionable. I was in the closet completely and I was trying my best to fit in. And whenever people started partying, Geordie Shore Skins was such like a popular TV show at the time, and I thought the coolest thing to do was to get absolutely wasted, blackout, and just do stupid things regardless of who you upset. I just remember starting to drink because I wanted to be popular and to be seen, and someone pissed me off or something. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna drink. Actually, I just had a flashback. I remember my first drink was I was literally a child going to like your first teenage disco, and I got encouraged to have a drink of vodka. And I remember everyone. It's all coming back to me now, lads. It's all coming back to me now. Wow. I had my first drink when I was an actual child. Like, we were going to like a teenage disco in like your tracksuit bottoms in Jersey. It was a Craigan disco, and at this point, no one really drank our age. But I was given alcohol by people. I could have had like a sip, and I thought I was so cool, getting steaming at the freaking Craig and Disco. And I remember everyone was talking about me. It got back to my parents and all. I obviously denied it, but I just remember feeling seen, even if it was seen in a negative way. Then I didn't drink for a few years because I was afraid, because I obviously got in a bit of a trouble for drinking at that age. And a few years later, we were going to like Teenage Clubland. Again, I wasn't going to drink, and then eventually I was like, frick it, and I just started drinking and I started going wild. And at the start, it was fun, and it always was fun. I feel like a majority of the time it was fun when I drank. It was like the only sort of fun I had in my life because I was trying my best to fit in, hiding who I was. I was very much so in the closet from a place that I really just didn't feel accepted to be gay. I was playing football, I was getting with all the girls, I was walking and talking and acting more manly, like I was doing my best to fit in, but it was draining. Like, see, trying to do your best to be someone that you're not, trying your best to be a character 24 freaking 7, it takes it out of you. And I was just really depressed, sleeping all the time. And I also had ADHD, didn't realize I had it until recent years. And a part of ADHD is RSD, which is rejection sensitivity dysphoria. So I could perceive that I feel rejected and it could just spiral and consume me, and I was shut down. And I think that's what was happening with the alcohol. I definitely was just unhinged, lying about things, doing things which are so against my values and morals. I was just causing drama. I was just doing things to be popular, whatever. Like, it was such a stupid way to think it back then, but I was a child. I was so young. And then I remember at one point something happened to me, and I'm not going to get into too much because it is very triggering for me to speak about. I haven't actually spoke about it publicly before. I haven't even spoke to like family members really about it or anything. Just to like a few friends and like therapists and stuff throughout the years. But something happened to me, and then the situation that happened, a rumor was spread about me that was the opposite of the truth, and I was too afraid of the person who done the thing to me to speak up about it, to speak the truth. And with the RSD and the rejection sensitivity dysphoria, I thought the entire world was talking about me. And to be honest, from that point, I think that was like the start of my downfall in terms of like my mental health. I just then started feeling like every person hated me in the planet. To be fair, that's wrong. I had a couple of really good friends, girls, who really supported me and felt like they had my back, and I honestly don't know where we'd be without them. And I definitely had like different friends who were like older and stuff too. But even at that, the RSD consumes you that much that you spiral and you feel like the whole world is against you, even though it isn't true. It's just a perceived rejection. But with that, I then started skipping school. I couldn't go to school. I had so much anxiety thinking that everyone hated me, even though they didn't, but I felt like they did. And I would have like went to like the library toilets or like Marks and Spencer toilets and just slept in there all day because I had no energy to even be awake because I was that much in like a depression, because trying your best to be a character 24/7 takes it out of you, and it's just not good for your mental health. But because I wasn't going to school, I was then getting in trouble with school, getting in trouble with my family, and I just then was spiraling, thinking the whole world was against me. It wasn't a fun time. I was going out partying. I was becoming friends with older people from like work, because I was working in like River Island. I was becoming friends with older ones, and I had enjoyment from working in River Island or becoming friends with older ones, and like having this new identity and like going wild. And like I would have flew over to like different to England to party, and like I had fun partying. I did. I enjoyed it, but it was definitely causing a lot of negativity in my life. I was getting myself in situations that were not fun. And then I ended up going to Ayanapa for the summer, drank non-stop, was literally waking up, having vodka for breakfast and just drinking all day non-stop for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And it was probably fun, but I was just unhinged. And then I went back to reality of getting a corporate job. I was in Belfast, living in the Holy Lands, working 4 days a week in like a suit with business people, and then in university 1 day a week, and I hated it. And my mental health was just getting worse and worse and worse. I was hiding it because I was probably quite good at hiding how unhappy I was, and I became friends with loads of new people. I started fresh basically, and I started going to raves, was getting heavily involved in taking substances and going on mad benders with loads of people. And all the people that I was with at that point in my life probably thought I was like the funnest, happiest person ever, when in reality I was not okay. And then it got to maybe like 19, 20. Like even 19 and 20, I just feel so young. And at the time, I thought I was like a fully grown adult, and I thought my life was over when all this stuff was happening. Like I got myself into loads of debt because I took like freaking credit cards at the age of 18 to go to like Ibiza and blow it all and drink and drugs. Like who the frick in the right mind thinks it's okay to give an 18-year-old a freaking credit card? Do you know what I mean? Like it's so silly. But at the time, I was just so stupid. And to be honest, in my head, I was like, I don't think I'm going to live that long. Like, that's so sad to think about. But at the time, my mental health was that bad. I didn't think I was going to live that long. So I was just like, I don't care. I'm going to take this money out and go freaking crazy. So I did that. And then I also made loads of mistakes. Like, I lost my driving license for drink driving. A very dark night. Can't remember anything. Blackout. I'm very much so against drink driving. Feel like I really always have been since then. But I was 19, stupid, made a mistake, and I'm just very grateful that I didn't hurt myself or anyone else in that situation. But that was a very dark moment. I got attacked a couple of times on nights out. I got my nose broke for being gay on a night out. I fell out with a lot of friends. I didn't have a great relationship with my family. I was in like a toxic relationship with wasn't healthy either. Lots and lots of different things happened, which eventually led me to getting sacked and kicked out of university. Sacked from the corporate job, kicked out of university because it was like an apprenticeship, which was all in one. And I basically had a fat rock bottom moment. I always wanted to travel, and I remember the day that I got kicked out of university and sacked from the corporate job. I said to my two friends I worked with, I was like, I'm going to travel the world. I don't know how, I'm going to do it. And I eventually stayed with my ex for a little while, and then eventually we broke up, and I packed my bags and went to Magaluf for the summer. Obviously, still loved to party. Thought partying was the only fun thing you could do in the entire world. So then we move on to the next version of myself with my relationship with alcohol. So that version, I feel like, was quite dark. I had fun when I was partying, and I definitely hid it well from the people that I was friends with about how much I was struggling. But I was using alcohol as an escaping thing. Like, I was escaping my reality, escaping how I felt, and definitely spiraled out of control. But I do feel like everything happens for a reason. I do feel like I had that rock bottom moment for me to then change my life, which I did. So that was like the first version of myself and the relationship with alcohol. Those were like the darkest years of my life, I would say. Then we hit the rock bottom moment and we start traveling. And don't get me wrong, the first like couple of years was definitely a transition. Like Magaluf, I went from Magaluf to working on a cruise ship. I ended up getting fired from the cruise ship for being drunk, chopping my ear in half, and being over the limit because you're not really allowed to be drunk on the cruise ship. So still loved the freaking party. I was still drinking way, way, way too much. But that was like the transition. And then we get to Ibiza 2019. And in Ibiza 2019, it was the first time in my life I felt like I could be myself. I felt like I was no longer morphing myself into this person to try and fit in. I was expressing myself the most I've ever expressed myself at that point in my life. And I remember having a moment, which I actually spoke about in my previous video about my spiritual awakening, where it just felt like the best that I've ever felt. Pure joy flowed through my whole body, and I just loved my life so much. And it was this was at the start of the season. And looking back, I would say Ibiza 2019 is probably one of my favorite summers of my life. I would say I had such amazing friends. I was able to be myself. Everyone accepted me and loved me for who I am. And don't get me wrong, still partying loads, definitely still drinking and taking substances a lot. But it felt like my relationship with it was different. Like I wasn't feeling this depression that I had when I was in Ireland. That summer, reflecting on it, was one of the best summers of my life. I would say it's the best summer I had as Kegs because I feel like now I've slowly transitioned from Kegs to Cahir. Kegs was like the wild party boy, like I feel like if you've followed me for a while, you'll notice the difference. But I felt like that was my best summer as Kegs. I feel like the summer that I just had in Ireland was the best summer as Car. Anyways, we're getting sidetracked. I think because I was able to be myself and able to express myself, I think the cure for depression is expression and expressing yourself freely. And I think from me just being myself, I was able to not feel this depression that I had whenever I was in Ireland and I was restricting myself. So therefore, I feel like my relationship with drink and drugs was much different. However, it probably still was unhealthy. But at the time of my life, I had no visions of the future. I had no desire to be successful or to be healthy or whatever. I was just young, feeling free, crazy, wild, and I was just enjoying the craziness in the moment with these friends that I had just made who accepted me for who I am. And every day was just wild and fun, and I was loving my job, and everything was just class. I honestly had the best summer, even though I was partying lots. But what goes up must come down, and I remember after that summer, I definitely went back to depression. And I remember went for a ski season, and I literally barely worked because I couldn't get like the visa or something because I had like a freaking criminal record for the drink driving incident like a few years before. So I was basically just like in this house in a ski resort with like no money and was just like not happy. And eventually left the ski season, got a job for like a party company in Mallorca, and then eventually moved to Miami and worked for spring break. After my ski season depression, I was eating loads of food, I was smoking loads of weed, I was drinking loads of alcohol, I put on loads of weight, and I was in Miami, the heaviest that I've ever been. I was drinking Four Locos for breakfast, eating McDonald's every day, and I was just so unhealthy. Like so unhealthy looking back. I'm like, oh my god, he was not a healthy person. So then we get to COVID and I have to move home, move back to Ireland, and obviously it's lockdown. I'm working in As the Butchers, not drinking, start listening to personal development podcasts. I speak about all this in my last video, and I'm feeling like really good. I'm feeling great. Loving the first lockdown. No partying. It was a complete break from it all. And that was like my first break that I've had from drinking. Actually, I feel like I'm full of shit. I feel like I was drinking wine on Zoom. What was that thing? House party or something. Everyone was drinking on it. I was probably still doing that, but obviously drinking a lot less. So during the first lockdown, I was working at As the Butchers at the back, was listening to loads of podcasts, and I started getting curious about my future. I started getting hopeful for the future. I started thinking, I wouldn't mind doing social media. I seen the freedom that it gives some people by putting themselves out there, and I was like, oh, I would like to do that. So my perspective on life started changing. Then I went to Ibiza for that summer, and the only people there that summer were either like workers like myself or like influencers and reality stars and stuff. So I started becoming friends with all those sort of people, and like younger me felt so freaking cool hanging around with all these people. You know what I mean? Like looking back, I'm laughing at myself, but like at the time, I was like, "Oh, I'm so freaking cool!" Like partying with all these like cool celebrities and well-known people. Eventually, I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna freaking start posting online, and I did, and I went on that journey, which has nothing to do with this video. This is about alcohol. But I had great crack. I freaking loved to party. I loved to get absolutely shit faced and have the crack and do wild things, you know. But from this, I started going on a journey of spirituality and going on adventures and exploring the world. I lived in Mexico for 6 months, and then I came home, and then I started traveling around like Southeast Asia, like India and Bali and Thailand and all those sort of places. And then I went to Australia for a few months, and my relationship with alcohol definitely went from partying all the time to partying like on and off. I started to realize that you can enjoy life outside of just partying, like going for adventures, doing things that give you adrenaline rushes, meeting like minded people, doing like spiritual practices, and like really just trying new things all around the world. Just really opened my mind to life. And that's a video for another time. But my relationship with alcohol definitely completely changed. I actually feel like there's probably four versions of myself with alcohol. There's probably the dark version, the party boy who was like non-stop partying, but it was like fun because I was able to be myself. Then it gets to this version where I'm like on and off alcohol. So in Thailand and Bali and all those different places, I still partied. I went for like a couple of weeks or months where I would party loads, and then I would have like a couple of months where I didn't drink at all. And I was very able to do that, but then I would get sucked back into the party lifestyle. And with me with ADHD, I cannot just go out for two drinks. If I go out for two drinks, I'm out to the next day. I loved it. I still love to party. Like partying's fucking great crack. Like it's so fun. Like getting absolutely shit faced with your friends is so fucking fun. But at the same time, it's fake fun. You know what I mean? Actually, I don't know if fake fun's the right word. It's fun with a consequence. Whereas now I kind of fun with no consequences, you know? And like I loved it. See, the more I got to know myself and the more I went on the spiritual path and the personal development path, the more I enjoyed life sober. But when I partied, I still had great crack. Like Sydney World Pride, for example, 1 month of non-stop partying, but it was like the wildest, most fun time ever. And then after that, I went to Thailand, and I literally didn't drink for like 3 months straight. But in Thailand, I got to this place in my life where it felt like the best that I've ever felt in my life. And I was, because I wasn't really drinking alcohol, and I was just really just like doing lots of inner work and doing things that really lit up my soul, like adventures and yoga, all that there sort of stuff. So then when I got back to Ireland after being sober for so long, I literally said I wasn't going to drink when I got home, and lasted 2 days. Straight back into the party lifestyle. Was drinking loads, was seeing all my old friends, going out loads, having the crack, and I loved it. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. But I also forgot to mention I went back to Ibiza. After I came home from Thailand and the traveling for like a year and a half or whatever, then I went back to Ibiza, partying loads. After Ibiza, back to depression mode, because obviously what comes up must come down, and I just wasn't in a good place. So after that Christmas, I decided to go sober, do dry January, try it out, and I ended up staying sober for a couple of months, I think. And I felt great. I loved life. I was in a good routine. I was living a quiet, simple life in home. And then it starts closing up to spring, summer, and I start getting partying loads. And obviously, I'm in this like influencery world. And I was like getting invited to loads of events and parties and festivals with free alcohol. And I was just having the time of my life. It was so fun. It was Brat Summer as well. So I was really living out Brat Summer, going wild, getting up to mischief, like just living this like single gay slutty summer. Like it was so fun, so fun. I loved it. But as the summer was coming to an end, I was like, I feel like I'm kind of getting ready to like quit alcohol here again, just for like a wee break or whatever. Didn't actually ever think that I was gonna completely stop. But I did. I knew I was going to eventually one day. I knew I was eventually going to one day, but I didn't think it was going to be this soon. So yeah, during Brat Summer, I'm having the time of my life. Absolutely love it every second of it. And I forgot to mention, at the start of the summer, I was diagnosed with ADHD. I had started watching loads of videos from Dr. Alex George. If you're ADHD or sober curious, watch his videos. He's great. But he started making me realize that people with ADHD and alcohol is not a good combination. Alcohol is like kryptonite for us. For me, what I actually really noticed from me going on and off the drink is that I obviously want to be successful. I was so productive, and I had so much motivation to get shit done whenever I wasn't drinking. But whenever I was drinking, I was not getting anything done. And when I wasn't getting anything done, I was also doing things that really weren't good for me. And what happens with people with ADHD, we already have like a dopamine deficiency anyways, and dopamine is obviously the thing that gives you like motivation. And whenever I drank alcohol, it spiked it, but then you crash. And whenever I party, I'm out for weeks and months, like all the time. And the days that I'm not out, I'm just crashing. Like I'm just on a downer. And I wasn't getting anything done. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't looking after myself. And whenever you are low dopamine like that after alcohol, I feel like I just had no discipline, and I was really just wanting quick dopamine hits. So I would have been like doing a bit of that all the time, which obviously wrecks your dopamine even more. I would have been eating really unhealthy foods. I would have been scrolling on my phone and getting loads of checking notifications loads. And I was just addicted to the quick dopamine hits whenever I was drinking alcohol and also taking drugs. I also might touch on my relationship with drugs quickly. So when I first started partying, I would have took freaking anything that was given to me under the sun. When I was so young, and then in like the Ibiza days, I started to realize which substances I liked and which I didn't. I personally am very grateful that the substance Snowflake, I'm not gonna say its real name, Coca Cola. It never agreed with me. It always put me in my ego. I really hated it. I never liked how it made me feel, and I'm so grateful that it didn't, because it's so highly addictive. And with ADHD, I'm addictive personality, so very grateful that it never agreed with me, because I've seen it ruin so many people's lives. The reason I mentioned that one is because I genuinely feel like there's an epidemic these days with the amount of people in their 20s or even teenagers or like young ones these days who cannot go on a night out without getting a bag of Snowflake. Like it's so common, so popular. It's almost seen as cool by some people, and it's just mad how many people are taking it as if it's like a normal thing. When in reality, I genuinely, hand on heart, feel like it's evil. I think it's an evil, evil, evil substance that is out there to completely disconnect people from themselves. But I was a raver, so I definitely liked the substances that people would take at raves. I also want to mention that I do not suggest to anyone to try substances. I feel like there's so much dodgy things out there that have been mixed with dodgy stuff, and you really genuinely don't know what you're putting in your body. So you really do need to be careful if you are ever going to do that. For me now, I don't take anything chemicals. I wouldn't touch anything chemicals, anything that's not natural, that's man-made. I just wouldn't put into my body, because I feel like it really does disconnect me from myself. But the chemicals or the substances that I would have taken in the raving days are also substances that are actually being tested now in like hospitals and doctors, and are being used to help people with like different diseases or illnesses or mental health. So I feel like they're not as bad as one that I just previously mentioned, but they're still not great, especially if you don't know what you're taking. Like the amount of young people whose lives have been taken because of taking substances that have been mixed or that are dodgy is wild, and everyone should just be super careful if they are going to do something like that. So yeah, what I noticed from taking like a couple of months on, a couple of months off, the time that I wasn't drinking or partying like that, I was very much so able to grow as a person, focus on like making good content, provide value. Like I just was really getting like inspired and creative and productive and all that sort of stuff. And then the second that I started getting back in the party version of myself, everything went to shit. So after fully getting stuck into Brat Summer, going wild, going crazy, being unhinged, doing some mad stuff that made good content for TikTok and also having lots of fun, I was coming to the end of summer and I was like, I think it's soon time to take a break. But I was hosting my first group trip to Morocco, and on the group trip we partied a couple of times, which was great. After the group trip, I was like, I'm done with alcohol for a bit, like I need a break. But I was in Spain somewhere, solo traveling, and I seen that one of my friends was in the same place as me. We ended up going out to the gay place in Spain, Torremolinos, I think it's called. And I was seeing angel numbers flat out, and this is woo woo spiritual sort of vibes. If you're not into that, it's okay. You don't have to listen to this bit, but I was seeing angel numbers flat out, and I feel like whenever I see angel numbers flat out, something spiritually happens to me. I basically ended up going out with my friend. Him and all his friends were out with me, and they decided to go home at like 11 p.m. But me, after a couple of drinks, I am not going home. I'm out the whole night. So I ended up staying out in this gay club with all these Spanish gay people that I had no idea who they were. Made friends with them all. Went back to an after party, and at this after party, I remember these guys. So how do I describe this without getting banned from YouTube? It was very, let's just say it was a very explicit after party. Lots of uh, naughty activity in terms of hooking up with people, everyone hooking up with each other. But not only was everyone sort of hooking up, there was a lot of substances floating about, and there was a substance going around that nearly everyone at the party was taking, and they were offering it to me, and I was like, absolutely not, I'm not doing that. I think if it was offered to me when I was younger in my darker year, I probably would have said yes, because I was so clueless. But the journey that I'd been on and the inner work that I had done, and I just knew that this was a no. I'm not going near that. And the people in the party were kind of making me feel weird for not taking it, and I was like, that's too far. Like I couldn't believe that everyone at this party was taking this substance because of how dark I feel it is. And I feel like there is a darkness that is in the gay community, and it is kind of normalized in the big cities and the big gay scene. Its nickname is Tina, and I was just like, no, not for me. So I remember feeling a bit weird about it all anyway, and I remember feeling called to go into the bathroom. And I remember going into the bathroom, and I just looked at myself, and I was just like, I don't love myself whenever I'm in this environment. Like, I felt like it was a download into my brain saying that I don't love myself when I'm in this environment. And I just really didn't like it. And I was like, you know what, it's time to go. So I left the party, went home, and for a couple of days I went to this like wee Spanish beach town sort of thing on my own. And for a couple of days I just really reflected on my life. And it was as if something was in my brain, rewiring my brain. I felt really the lowest vibe ever. And I just felt like something was really rewiring my brain. Basically, like, you don't love yourself when you party like this. You don't love yourself when I drink or take drugs or whatever, and it just really holds me back from life. And I was just really reflecting on it all, and I was like, it's time to quit. Like, I'm done. Like, I want to be successful. I want to live a life of value, to provide value for other people. I want to embody the things that I'm saying online, the things that I'm saying to other people. I want to help people be free within themselves, and I want to help people be free within themselves, getting rid of all of the gunk inside of them, and that's never going to happen me if I don't stop escaping my own internal world with alcohol and drugs. So I was like, it's time. I'm done. It's time to quit. And I had the best intentions to fully quit in that exact moment. But a few weeks later, I was up for an award, social media awards, and I honestly went to the place. I was so overwhelmed, so anxious. I was just like, I cannot do this sober, so I need a drink. So I ended up getting absolutely shit faced, and that is where I ended up with that video at the start of the video, where the next morning I was getting the bus home in my tux, still awake because I cannot just go out for two drinks. I have to drink the entire night long, and I ended up in like a party in the freaking Holy Lands. Like, I'm a bit old for the Holy Lands at this point as well. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, that's me done. And I honestly, reflecting on the whole thing, feel like quitting alcohol has been a lot easier than I anticipated. I really, really do feel like a miracle happened to me that time in Spain. I feel like something genuinely got into my brain, rewired it. Because I had tried to quit for years. Like, I was on and off it for years. And I kept saying I was never going to drink again. And then I drank again. And I ended up getting sucked back into that lifestyle. And I just couldn't fully quit. And I still never, ever actually thought I was going to fully quit until something literally got into my brain, rewired it. And see, since then, apart from that time where I felt anxious and felt like I needed to drink in that exact moment, ever since then, I have never wanted to drink again. I've never been out and craving alcohol, or I've never been like wanting to get shit faced. I've never wanted to do it. And I feel like really blessed that I've received this sort of miracle. Like, it's definitely so woo woo what's happened, but I genuinely feel like something got into me and rewired my brain. And I know that's not the same for everyone, and I know everyone's obviously going to be experiencing different things, but I can share my truth, and I can share all the things that I've learned and all about this whole experience, and hopefully it might help someone else. And don't get me wrong, there has been quite a few times where I have looked back at like the old versions of myself, like the kegs who loved Ibiza in 2019, or the kegs who was going crazy in Sydney World Pride 20 something. Like, I look back at those versions of myself, and I feel kind of sad that I'm probably never going to experience those versions of myself again. However, I am very much so on this path that I'm on, and I'm feeling super blessed to be on this path. And I've had experiences since being sober that have been the best of my life, and I just had the best summer of my life sober. Like, one of the things, actually, whenever I first quit properly, I was actually afraid of the summer. I was like, oh my god, am I gonna have like a boring shit summer because I don't drink? Am I gonna lose all my friends? And don't get me wrong, that is probably a factor of it, but since quitting, I've ended up becoming friends with like-minded people who also don't drink, and I ended up just having the best summer of my freaking life in Ireland, traveling around in my van, going to shit tons of festivals, completely sober, and just able to be myself. But I've had so much growth in this year as well, and I'm just like, oh, quitting alcohol, 100% one of the best things that I've ever done. That is my journey and my relationship with alcohol. I'd say there's four different versions of myself, not three, and the different relationships I had with it. It was quite a vulnerable post. I hope you liked it. I'm going to do separate videos actually answering your questions and speaking about the pros and cons and the things that I've learned and things that have happened over the past year from being sober and alcohol free. But I feel like this video is way too long, so if you enjoyed, subscribe. I am going to be posting loads of sober content and also content about my personal development journey and spirituality and all that sort of stuff. So if you're interested, subscribe. And yeah, I'm always here for a chat as well if you ever need chatting to someone about this journey as well, because it's not an easy one. Do you know what I mean? It's not an easy one. It's going against the norm and it can be challenging, but it's definitely a journey worth taking, in my opinion. So yeah, love you and chat soon. Bye.